Oh, I am back, much later. Had many events intervene this afternoon, so it's relatively late evening, and I'm going to do just a little bit of Prokofiev 6th, last movement. I have decided that the vivace section, starting with F sharp minor, which is measure 229, certainly at least all the way to 302. Well, not quite. To 280 anyway, but possibly. Has a lot of 16th note figuration, but doesn't leave a lot of room for thought, or the thoughts have to come carefully, in a choreographed fashion, in an orderly fashion, in an unruffled fashion. So, what will be the test, which I doubt that I very much will meet tonight, but the test that I will have to set for myself for tomorrow, which I'm going to start today, is that there be continuity between those 2 points, 237 roughly to 279 or so, to where the 16th notes stop, or even, yes, just as proof positive that this material has been fully assimilated. So I'm going to start with some of what I did a little bit earlier and see how things go. I'm going to start at 237, which is where the theme comes back in F sharp minor. So sorry. Hyper-conscious while you're being careful, especially in perpetual motion. There's just not enough time. So I have to reach the point where I trust in the notes that I've taught myself. So I think the problematical area starts from 246, which is C minor here, because the left hand starts to interact. Rather than just being pleasantly supportive, it decides it needs to have a say as well. Is useful. In the first 4 notes, 3 out of the 4 notes are black notes, it's an F, and all the other 4 notes are white. So my body, if I describe that for the sake of getting my hand and arm used to it, pretty straightforward. It's just a G minor chord, then it's a diminished fourth, but as far as my body is concerned, it's a major third. So, and then a scale. 253 as an augmented second, but again, it's a minor third. I think if I haven't been using fourth finger, if I've been using third finger, then I've been asking for trouble. So going 1, 3, 5, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, 1. Keeps my hand as absolutely quiet, sublimely quiet. Of flusters or excuse me, insecurities or unevenness. It's not that the notes are wrong, it's that the notes wouldn't serve me in hands together situations, and they wouldn't serve me going from the beginning of the section to the end of it. So you can tell when you're dead on, when you're in that groove, and you can tell when you sound terrible. But most particularly, you have to develop the ability to know when you're coming close but aren't there. That's where I am here. Now, that was great as far as I was concerned until I neglected, well, I didn't have the information in my head, excuse me, to signal when the thirds turn into fourths. So it's GD, so here. I think it's a question for me right now of grouping, which I need. In other words, when I choose to go to 4, or in this case 4 is the top of my hand. This is in measure 257. I'm going 2, 4, 4, 2 on the 2 black notes, and then 3, 1. That represents a complete hand position. The 5th is not involved, so the 4th is the top of my hand for those purposes. And that signals a hand group. It's extended by 1/3 because I'm doing 3, 1 again. Then I'm doing 5, 2, 4, 1, and I'm just going to I like to use a square bracket to indicate a hand position. 5, 2, 4, 1, 5, 2, 4, 1. And there I go. So, in here, in here, in here. So, what I've not consciously told myself is that there's a 4-note group, another 4-note group, and then a 3-note group. It's a third masquerading as a diminished 4th, and that's when the left hand comes in, and we have alternating hands. So, one group, another group. How labored that is, how currently lacking in confidence I am there. And it's already better, just because of what I told myself. So I'm going to go back to these 4ths. Here and here. So one group, another group. Not bad. Let me get into it. Not bad. I need to have the G ready. So this is going to be up here. It needs to be rather high up. Physically rather high up to get out of the way of my right hand. Prepared for is my new fingering, which is this E minor is 1-3-5, so that the hand can mold itself from the white notes to the black notes, and have a sense of what that will feel like in advance of actually feeling it. There it is. Pardon me, coughing. If you must know, I don't have a cold, but I'm an absolute fanatic about raw nuts, so I had some without any liquid, and I've got nuts. I am nuts. So it's one of those things you have to know. For example, would I eat them just before a concert? No. Would I eat them before a practice session? Who knows what I'd do before a practice session? I don't have enough of a ritual, which perhaps we all should have, but not enough of a ritual to be able to say, ooh, I'm always on, I'm always optimizing the way I approach the piano. Sometimes I'm cold, sometimes I'm really into it, sometimes my concentration is really good, sometimes I feel distracted, like most of us. So the best we can do is optimize how we are and what we're doing under the circumstances. So sometimes you have to scale back what you ask of yourself, which is why, since I have limited time, and I'm spending some of it talking to you, I have to make sure that what I ask of myself has a significantly high standard and gives me a sense of satisfaction and completion in what I ask myself to do. I may not be able to complete a mass of work, but I need to demand of myself that the work that I do, number one, pays off, number two, will tend to stick. So even if I forget some of this tomorrow, that the work is good enough that it will be easier to reinforce, because I will have started to develop some of that groove. So, back. I need, let's see. This is 4 against 3. This new fingering is really, really good. It helped me a lot. It also tends to parallel the left hand, or rather well, which is good. Then it turns. Actually, the left hand does as well. They are quite, not literally mirroring one another, but coming awfully close. This goes down the triad, this goes up the triad. This turns up and then rises up a fifth. This just turns down chromatically. And then I'm in another key. And as I've learned, I marked where the next page is. I've marked the place in the other edition that's paginated differently, so that my eye can see it right away. That's very useful to me. Well, I am going to forge on. I certainly haven't, not only have I not perfected what I just did, but I haven't put a lot of it hands together, which I will need to do, but I do want to flesh out what the remaining work needs to be, so at least I get exposed to all of it, as I had hoped to do. So, there's just enough of a different demand here, because the left hand has to go quickly to a big chord, and then right back up. See, I'm not even getting right back up to where I'm supposed to go. There we go. I need to know the F. So here's F major, basically an F minor outline here. Well, that's a useful bit of information. I might actually write it down so that it helps to inform me. F major, F minor. I think the ideal fingering for going 4 white notes and a black note is not 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but rather 4, 3, 2, 1, 2. For me. Can I get back? I think so far. That's what I'm going to attempt to do. So I have. Yeah, that was hard for me to get to because I didn't. Oops. I underestimated the demand. There it is. So there's a repeat. That's nice to know. F minor. Very good. I'm still not. I'm underestimating how far it is. It's quite far away. All right. Let's see what I can do with putting it. Oh yes, well, I was starting the conversation about what was lacking fluency, and I took care of the left hand, which is as disjunct as you can get, but I didn't take care of the right hand. And what's a little bit challenging is just this tiny little anacrusic figure in the right hand. It's written as F, G sharp, and then it goes into an A minor position. So it's really not a big deal if I remind myself I'm already there. Because look, I'm playing 1, 2, 4 through D minor, and then third on G sharp. And then if I'm going to play G sharp in short order, I already have the third on G sharp. I already just played the second on F. So if I'm going to go between F and G sharp, if I'm aware that I'm there, it's no big deal. And a moment ago, I was almost releasing the keyboard and then trying to find the odd positioning of 2 and 3. It's not a terribly comfortable position to be in. 2 and 3 would much rather play the same color of note. They're close enough in length that they'd much rather both be playing black or both be playing white. So when you have a minor third, at least the advantage is the third, the longer finger gets to be on the black note. That's more natural. So if my hand is comfortable, and particularly if that awareness makes me tilt my hand slightly, then the 2 and 3 tend to line up the way the natural hand position works. And that makes a big difference. If I stay squared, there's this unevenness of position. So a little bit of tilt makes a big difference. As you can see, it's just not a big deal. So, but this is a big deal. The running around is a very big deal. Say this is one of those places where I ask Prokofiev, could you make it more comfortable? I should point out half of the time, roughly, the hands are playing alone. So it always leads me to wonder, could I possibly split the roles in some fashion? In other words, could I make the right hand play more or less, or redivide? So getting up to this F minor position is terribly crowded. If I do what I'm doing right now, which is to be fairly dramatic about the release, it's much easier. If I stay there, it's extremely hard. So, another thing I might consider might consider a lot is that in spite of the fact that it's easy to keep track of the F minor position by going 5, 4, 3, 1, that I perhaps should go 4, 3, 2, 1. What's my thinking in that matter? Several things. Number one, going to the fifth finger means I'm going much further to the right to position my left hand. Second thing is that the fifth finger is very short. So when you play the fifth finger, coming from out of the keyboard into the keyboard, you have to bring your hand way into the keyboard. The fourth finger, by contrast, is much longer. So I could play that F much further out, which would not be interfered with nearly so much by the right hand. So let's see if that works. Now the other thing is my right hand is playing, I think, 1, 2, 4. So my left hand will actually appreciate mirroring, if not the notes themselves, at the very least the portion of the hand that's being used. I think that works better. And then I have to go into 1, 3, 5 mode for the B minor. Which I do not, well, I don't know if I have it written. I have it written the opposite. On this switch of this page, I have 1, 2, 4 written. But I'm not sure, excuse me, I'm not sure I'm right. It's strong fingers. I have a new fingering up there that on 272, where I go 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 1, 2. I like that a lot, but that has nothing to do with the issue of the figure on the page turn. Well, I'm going to try practicing it from here. Well, in the second measure, I had already, the second B minor measure, I had already changed my fingering, which I really like, to go to 1 on C sharp. That necessitates my going up the B minor chord, 1, 2, 4. That doesn't mean I have to be consistent, but it just does make me think about whether or not consistency in that B minor chord might not be a good idea. And then here. If I anticipate that hand turn, that's what so many beginning pianists or young pianists do in playing scales and arpeggios, is they anticipate the long finger that's going to come over the thumb, so they move that hand over and they get stuck in crossed positions rather than just carrying the hand, having the arm deliver the hand to where you're going. It's much faster, it's much more efficient. So if I'm going, in other words, and I worry about that cross position, I'm worrying about something that's inherently uncomfortable for the body to do. If I instead think about finishing this gesture and delivering my arm to the thumb, then I just play the scale afterwards. So I get to here, and don't consider the thumb to be part of the scale. Here, and then here, and then here, and then here. So let's see if that works. Tilt of the hand. It's always useful to recognize that you're not bound by the 90-degree relationship of your body to the keyboard. The black and white notes and the fact that your fingers are on equal lengths and unequal capabilities means that the angle in which your hand is placed at any given moment can have a huge effect on your sense of well-being and your accuracy and the duplicability of whatever you're asking yourself to do. So, tilt, that's good. Okay, the other thing to notice that I'm learning the notes well enough. That's always useful, but you have to, when there's a tricky passage, you have to be able to lift the notes off the page and internalize them in some fashion. That often means memorizing them, not necessarily even consciously, but just being aware of the demands of the music. It comes close to memory right away because it needs to be there. Your eyes need to inform you. So, let's see how. White note. Okay, which brings up another thing. It's a little silly of me to be dealing with all these finger issues when I'm not bringing in my left hand. My left hand is, as happens so much in this passage, close to the right hand. So it's possible that one fingering may work, another fingering may not, when the hands are in close proximity. So that is tricky. Let's see. This is particularly ungainly. And I'm going up, I'm tilting my hand up towards F sharp. And my left hand, meanwhile, is coming up towards G. So let's see if I need to revise anything. I must say that should be a rule of thumb, that when you're working out fingerings, consider the possibility that you may need to alter them based on what the other hand is doing. Sometimes it simplifies what the other hand is doing. And sometimes it makes it more complicated. Okay, so one way would be to simply use, instead of the thumb, which draws me into the key just as the fifth finger does, to use a second. So I could go, for example, it's a little odd, I could go 1, 5, 2, flat, this is 271 we're talking about. And then I could go 5, 2. Or, of course I could always consider, I don't think so. I could do that, the two notes in the right hand, but it would really lose that sense of ease. So I'm not in a quandary here, but I may need to revise my thinking. The one advantage then of 1, 3, 5 is that I'm not as committed to the F sharp in the same fashion. I might even need to give up my pet fingering that I discovered earlier on. So, measure 272. It's not bad. It's one of those weird trade-offs. The 1, 2, 4 finger is very strong for the right hand taken alone, but it's very difficult for the coordination because of the close proximity. So the necessary trade-off may be that I need the coordinated fingering that's not as optimized for the right hand, just because it works. That's always the bottom line. It may require more concentration. Now, I still haven't given a full opportunity for the 5-2 fingering to see what it works like. Right now it's starting to feel very complicated, interestingly. Such close quarters. It's such a weird feeling no matter what. Let's see if there are any other wily ways I can work my way through this. I could try the downbeat with the left hand alone. I mean, not the downbeat, the second beat. So. Let me try just on the second beat. That's the most difficult, it's the downbeats, so. Now I am going back to experimenting. This may take a while, you know, this kind of experimenting, because none of these solutions totally appeals to me yet, so I'm willing to do really outlandish redivision for the sake of finding out whether there's one sweet spot that I can find that most appropriately or hopefully perfectly and comfortably gives me the solution I'm looking for. Possibility is that I should simply play these figures way up on the keys, so they're as far removed, as far over the right hand as possible. I'm getting more and more convinced that using the 1-2-4 fingering is just not going to work. So I'll take out my trusty eraser. I was very fond of that fingering. I'd be very sad to see it go. But it's not serving me well. So too bad for it. Notice there what I was trying to do is to be hyper-aware of the G's. In other words, what's my left-hand thumb actually doing there? Does it feel good about its function? And it's never going to be that loud, but by playing it loudly, my ear gets attuned to what it's doing and my body gets used to whether or not it has in fact furnished that note with some degree of confidence. So. Feel how I got a little tied up. I can't say literally because we overuse that term, but my hands twisted around one another, so as close to literally as one might use the term. It just wasn't literally tied up. experimenting with is going 5-1 for the A flat, 5-2 for the G. Because what that does is it brings me way, way out on the keyboard and keeps me far removed from where my right hand is. So, in, out. Done slowly, it's rather easy. It's odd as good. Okay, I think maybe we're holding our breath here. We've got us a solution. So 2 and 2. This last G, there's no reason to go to the thumb. I think. Excuse me, there's no reason to go to the 5th again. Although there might be. Because it concludes, now I have to go now a triplet. There's no particular advantage to playing thumb. If my hand is already passive here, if it's easy to get to the G, and then to toss. So, 2, 2, 2, 2. Good. Let's see. So, since I've gone this far, I just want to get to the end of the section that I promised myself to remind myself about. So, this is halfway through the figuration we just had before. That's right. So, chromatic, and actually, tritone, tritone. Okay, this is one example of a sequence. There are many, many examples of sequences where the intervals are the same, but the feeling is dramatically different. So the question is, should I stick with the same fingering, or I think I'm going to stick with the same fingering, in spite of the fact that that doesn't optimize the sense of ease. It really optimizes the simplicity in my head. And that's right there the most important. Okay, what do we have here? We have it E flat, followed by G, so there are natural groupings. 4th finger. Probably 4-2-1, 4-2-1 is good. So it's black, white, black, black, white, black. And then I need to look at my left hand. I need to look here. Whoops, that's not right because there's a B natural. And so on. And we go on. That lack of simplicity in this figuration, that needs to be addressed. This is easy enough. There's so much jumping around. He skips from octave to octave so much. And it's particularly true when you have a repeated fragment like this. Hands are doing roughly the same thing. They're on the same keys. And then suddenly, not only do we have to switch, but we have to switch again and then yet again. So finding that continuity requires a certain ingenuity. So I see I've written, no, the fingering is for somewhere else. too, because it's two block notes together. Okay, and we're done. We got to where I wanted to be, roughly. I've got to go back and do this again tomorrow, but even though I had to give up some good ideas that I had, which worked hands independently, I also found some other things, bizarre though some of them may have been on first experience, found how the left and right hand sometimes interfere with one another, found out some hand redivision that makes things simpler. So I'm still tinkering, but the point of that is that's what polishing is all about, that I'm trying to reach the point where I have a complete sense of ease in this particular passage, so I can toss them off with some degree of delight, rather than with any sense of huffing and puffing and gritting of teeth. So there you go. All right.